Hey guys, Carlo Matig-a here, and today I'm gonna read you this powerful information that I've stumbled upon. It's called the One Sentence Persuasion Course, 27 Words to Make the World Do Your Bidding. So before I read it to you, you have to promise me some things. First is since this info is very powerful, use only this knowledge for the good. This who is this for? Is could be for businessmen, for freelancers, for the self-employed, or just anyone who sells their services and products, and anyone who is influencing somebody or want to influence somebody. This could be your missing link to take your business to the next level. And my recommended listening schedule for this is listen to this first thing in the morning and before you sleep at night for better learning. So let's start with the uh, audiobook and reading. The One Sentence Persuasion Course, 27 Words to Make the World Do Your Bidding. This is by Blair Warren. Warning, do not read ahead to discover the one sentence. Doing so will only diminish its impact. It will be revealed soon enough, so take your time and read this report straight through. It will be worth the wait, I promise. One sentence persuasion? Is it possible to capture and convince and communicate anything of value about persuasion in a single sentence? It is, and I'm about to prove it. But first, let me tell you why I've gone to this extreme. Studying persuasion and influence is one of my deepest passions and has consumed an embarrassingly large amount of my time and energy for over a decade. I have family and friends who say my pursuit borders on obsession. They are wrong. It crossed the line long ago. I know of no subject more fascinating, more empowering, more profitable, and unfortunately, more confusing. This confusion is more than unfortunate. It is also largely unnecessary. Given the pace of today's world, it has never been easier to be powerfully persuasive. Never. It doesn't require good looks, a silver tongue, or infallible logic. It doesn't require confidence, charisma, or a magnetic personality. It is a simple matter when one cuts through all the smoke. Cutting through the smoke is the hard part. In fact, if you have yet to develop your persuasive powers to the level that you want, it likely has nothing to do with you. Given the shell game of strategies and misinformation available, it is a wonder we're still able to understand each other, much less persuade each other. If this barrage of techno jargon has left you more confused than empowered, take a deep breath and relax. We're about to take aim at this confusion, blow away the smoke, and make things as simple as possible. In fact, we'll nail it down to a single sentence, just 27 words. And with these words, we can work miracles. But first, we must clear away some smoke. The setup. Before we venture into our material on persuasion, let's take a quick peek at the field of magic where the two share a common core. Try this sometime. Visit a magic shop in your city and spend a half an hour or so watching the owner demonstrate some tricks. Pick the one that baffles you the most and buy it. Then go out to your car, open up the instructions. If you're like me, you won't be able to wait until you get home and discover how the trick works. If you will do this, I can predict with 99.9% accuracy what will happen. You will be disappointed. The secrets behind many magic tricks, even some of those that seem like miracles, are often so mundane that one cannot help but feel disappointed upon their discovery. Now for another prediction. Your next thought will be, this is ridiculous. This wouldn't fool anyone. At this point, if you're like most people, you'll pick away, you'll put the trick away and consider your $20 investment a bust. But if you're honest with yourself, and few people are, you will have another thought that can transform the way you look at life. No joke. That thought goes something like this. Wait a minute. It must not be that ridiculous if it fooled me. And with this one thought, you will have risen to a level of intellectual honesty and understanding that few people ever experience. You will have discovered that the most magical things in life, on and off the stage, are often the result of the correct application of the most basic principles imaginable. This is perhaps nowhere more true than in the field of persuasion. I realize this is heresy for me to say, as persuasion is clearly a complicated field, and judging from the amount of new material coming out every day, it's only going to get more so. Without a doubt, it has never been easier for us to get lost down the rabbit hole, only to be spit back out more confused and broke than when we started. As someone who has studied these materials for many years, I'll be the first to tell you there is a lot of great stuff out there. Many subtleties and distinctions are available that can have a powerful impact on our ability to persuade others. Unfortunately, for every one of these, there are a dozen that only serve to complicate and confuse. The good news is one does not have to spend years studying this type of material to become an almost frighteningly powerful persuader. If you find these hard to believe, consider that charismatic leaders and hypnotic seducers have been around as long as there have been men to lead and women to seduce. If they didn't need today's cutting edge techniques, why do you? Yes, these ideas can help, but if you're hell bent on maximizing your skills, you should become familiar with them all. But don't let anyone tell you they are necessary in order to have a powerful impact on others. What is necessary is a fundamental understanding of human nature. For persuasion, even the most extreme examples of persuasion, such as suicide cults and mass movements, are often based on the most basic of human desires. Just as magicians can perform miracles using mundane principles, powerful persuaders shape the world in much the same way. So we are left with the basics. The question now becomes, which basics? I am sure if you ask this question of 100 different persuasion experts, you'd get 100 different answers. But I'm also certain there would be much common ground. I am certain of this because I have seen it hiding behind the varied terminologies and philosophies in their materials. When one strips away the jargon and intricacies of the material available, one is left with some very basic, very powerful understandings. And while each of us might represent these in different ways, the important thing is to get a handle on them so that they are available at a moment's notice. The sentence. I have found the best way to do this is to encapsulate them in a single sentence. Not a sentence that one delivers, but a sentence that one remembers. A sentence that can help guide your efforts from beginning to end in virtually every situation imaginable. This sentence could easily be condensed or expanded And after reading this report, I encourage you to try to do this for yourself. In fact, the best way to make these ideas your own is to modify them to suit your own understanding and experiences. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Let's look at this sentence, this one sentence persuasion course, and see what makes it tick. Here it is. People will do anything for those who encourage their dreams, justify their failures, allay their fears, confirm their suspicions, and help them throw rocks at their enemies. Reading that again, people will do anything for those who encourage their dreams, justify their failures, allay their fears, confirm their suspicions, and help them throw rocks at their enemies. That, in a single sentence, contains five of the most important insights I have learned in all my years of studying and applying the principles of persuasion. Encourage their dreams, justify their failures, allay their fears, confirm their suspicions, help them throw rocks at their enemies. Now, these are not the most important because they are comprehensive. They aren't. They're not the most important because they've been scientifically proven. They haven't. And they're not the most important because they're based on the latest persuasion technology. They're not. They are the most important because they are simple, they are immediately useful, and they can be almost frighteningly powerful. Hitler used them and nearly took over the world. Cult leaders Jim Jones, David Koresh, and Marshall Applewhite used them and commanded such loyalty that many of their followers willingly, even eagerly, died for them. And yet, these five insights are not only tools for madmen, but for marketers, salesmen, seducers, evangelists, entertainers, etc. In short, they are the tools for anyone who must connect with others and, more importantly, make these connections pay off. The explanation. If you don't believe me, try to find a truly successful ad campaign that does not use one or more of these five insights. Really, try to find one. Then, when you give up on that, try finding a deep, satisfying relationship that isn't built upon one or more of them. Just try to find people who have a remarkable chemistry yet fail to encourage each other's dreams, or who demand that the other is to blame, or who fail to address each other's concerns, or treat each other as paranoid, or leave each other to fight their own battles. While I'm sure you could find an example if you search hard enough, I am also certain that for everyone you find, I can find 100 to counter it. The bottom line is, whenever and wherever people form powerful bonds, these insights are more often than not lurking in the shadows. Now, there is nothing particularly difficult to understand about these strategies. They are self explanatory. Some may even say obvious, but to dismiss them upon these grounds is an enormous mistake. In fact, dismissing them is one reason they're even more powerful for those who do not. Think back to our trip onto the magic shop and how quick we were to dismiss the secret behind our little trick. And yet, magicians aren't so quick to dismiss. Instead, they take these simple secrets that wouldn't fool anybody and build upon them to create illusions that baffle the most brilliant among us. It is much the same with powerful persuasion. Its effects can be so sudden, so dramatic, so life altering that we remain convinced there has to be something deeper, something more complex going on. More often than not, there isn't. There is simply the correct application of very basic principles by people who appreciate their power. And since the rest of us dismiss these principles as being too basic and too obvious to work, we flounder in complexity and minutiae that sounds great on paper but falls flat in practice. But by overlooking the power of these basic principles, we do more than guarantee ourselves failure and frustration. We leave those with whom we wish to connect vulnerable to others who may feel these needs we so casually dismiss. Consider on encouraging their dreams. Parents often discourage their children's dreams for their own good and attempt to steer them toward more reasonable goals. And children often accept this as normal until others come along who believe in them and encourage their dreams. When this happens, who do you think has more power, parents or strangers? On justifying their failures, while millions cheer Dr. Phil as he tells people to accept responsibility for their mistakes, millions more are looking for someone to take the responsibility off their shoulders, to tell them that they are not responsible for their lot in life. And while accepting responsibility is essential for gaining control of one's own life, assuring others they are not responsible is essential for gaining influence over theirs. One need look no further than politics to see this powerful game played at its best. On allaying their fears, when we are afraid, it is almost impossible to concentrate on anything else. And while everyone knows this, what do we do when someone else is afraid and we need to get their attention? That's right. We tell them not to be afraid and expect that to do the trick. Does it work? Hardly. And yet we don't seem to notice. We go on as if we'd solved the problem and the person before us fades further away. But there are those who do realize this and pay special attention to our fears. They do not tell us not to be afraid. They work with us until our fear subsides. They present evidence. They offer support. They tell us stories, but they do not tell us how to feel and expect us to feel that way. When you are afraid, which type of person do you prefer to be with? On confirming their suspicions, one of our favorite things is to say, I knew it. There is nothing quite like having our suspicions confirmed. When another person confirms something that we suspect, we not only feel a surge of superiority, we feel attracted to the one who helped make that surge come about. Hitler confirmed the suspicions of many Germans about the cause of their troubles and drew them further into his power by doing so. Cults often confirm the suspicions of prospective members by telling them that their families are out to sabotage them. It is a simple thing to confirm the suspicions of those who are desperate to believe them. And finally, on helping them throw rocks at their enemies. Nothing bonds like having a common enemy. I realize how ugly this sounds, and yet it is true just the same. Those who understand this can utilize this. Those who don't understand it, or worse, understand but refuse to address it, are throwing away one of the most effective ways of connecting with others. No matter what you may think of this, rest assured that people have enemies. All people. It has been said that everyone you meet is engaged in a great struggle. The thing they are struggling with is their enemy. Whether it is another individual, a group, an illness, a setback, a rival philosophy or religion, or what have you, when one is engaged in a struggle, one is looking for others to join him. Those who do become more than friends, they become partners. The fact is, while these insights seem like common sense, they are anything but common practice, except among master persuaders. What's missing? There is something else worth noting about this sentence. It is missing something most people think is very important in the persuasion process. Read the sentence again and see if you can tell what it is. People will do anything for those who encourage their dreams, justify their failures, allay their fears, confirm their suspicions, and help them throw rocks at their enemies. Any ideas? If so, you're one step ahead of the game. Here is what's missing you. There isn't a word about your wants, your needs, your hopes, or your concerns. There isn't a word about your offer or proposal. There isn't a word about what you think. It is all about the other person. Again, this is heresy. People write books about how to frame your ideas, how to present yourself, how to put your best foot forward, and yet all that people really care about is themselves. Can you imagine how much energy you will free up if you stop focusing on yourself and put your attention on other people? Can you even imagine how much more charismatic you'll become when you come to be seen as the one who can fulfill some of their most basic emotional needs? Think of it like this. Imagine you're sitting down with someone you hope to influence. Your proposal makes sense. Your arguments are solid. The conversation is even pleasant. But the entire time, you're looking off to the side of the person and focusing on the wall behind them. Now, how much of a connection do you think you're going to make with that person? Remember, everything is perfect with the exception of your focus. Your message shines. Your confidence is solid. Your proposal is a no brainer. And yet, none of this makes the slightest bit of difference when you are looking past the other person. This is exactly what happens in a conversation when your focus is on your own goals. You are looking past the person, looking past everything that is most important to them, and you have little hope of ever being able to establish a deep connection. Still not convinced? Then notice what else our sentence doesn't say. It does not say people will do anything for those who educate them, do what's best for them, or even treat them fairly. It does not say people will do anything for those who are eloquent, well dressed, and pleasant, nor those who make the best case for their proposals, who are reasonable and come across as intelligent. Again, this is Carlo Matig-a reading you the book, The One Sentence Persuasion Course by Blair Warren. When we focus on the basic principles of human nature, these things become negligible. When we focus on the basic principles of human nature, we create relationships in which people naturally want to do things for us. This is the real secret to getting what we want. Really, it is that simple. Or I should say it can be that simple. Have you ever noticed that the harder you push, the more resistance you get? When you focus on what you want, people will resist. That's what people do. Politicians lie, the sun rises in the east, and people resist pressure. But one thing people rarely resist is someone trying to meet their needs. And when one's needs have been met, a bond is often forged and a natural desire to reciprocate has been created. And just how powerful is this desire? To what extremes will people go to repay the favor? This is the frightening part. But don't take my word for it. Look around and see for yourself. People willingly leave their families for cults who fulfill these needs for them. People pick up arms and kill others for those who meet their deepest needs. People leave long term marriages and relationships for people they just met, and their spouses are often left stunned. They wouldn't be if they understood the power of these needs. Like it or not, The duration of our relationships is nothing compared to the depth of our relationships. And depth is based on the fulfillment of our deepest needs, not on the duration of dialogue. Notice I have never said you should ignore your wants. I simply said you should focus on the other person, not forget yourself. Or to be more specific, when you are with the person you want to influence, your primary focus should be on that person. Do not look past him or her by focusing on your intentions. The time to focus on your own hopes, dreams, and desires is when you're alone. This is when you should get clear on what you hope to accomplish, on what you would like to occur in any given encounter. But once you get this state of clarity and find yourself face to face with another, place your attention where it can have the greatest impact. Place it on the other person. Don't be afraid that your wishes will go unnoticed. On the contrary, they will find a way to express themselves in your encounters. Whether they arise spontaneously or the other solicits them, they will arise naturally. And when they arise naturally, they are often fulfilled effortlessly. Examples. As I said earlier, there is nothing particularly difficult to understand about these strategies, especially when it comes to one on one encounters. But how might they be used in other contexts, such as websites and advertising? And can they have the same impact they would in an interpersonal encounter? The answer to the first question is easily. The answer to the second is absolutely. For example 1, Pelmanism. Recently, my friends Joe Vitale and Pat O'Brien launched a website that unexpectedly shattered sales records. The success of the site surprised everyone involved, and there was much discussion as to why it was so effective. Was it the product? Was it the price? Was it just the right offer at the right time? I'm sure each of these things played a role, but I know something else that played a role as well. The copy spoke to some very basic human needs that we have been discussing in this special report. For example, the headline reads, if you're the kind of person who wants to break free from limited thinking and finally get whatever you want in life, these 12 long lost astonishing books written in the 1920s will set you free. This clearly encourages our dreams of freedom, of getting what we want. This is literally the first line of their letter, and they've already struck a powerful vein of influence. Let's look at the next paragraph. It reads, we feel your pain. You've read Think and Grow Rich. You've scoured the shelves in bookstores for hours trying to find something that will answer the one question that has haunted you for years. Why I'm not where I want to be financially, mentally, or spiritually. You've done everything that you can, but there's still something holding you back. This paragraph not only lets us know they recognize our frustration, such as we feel your pain. It suggests that it isn't our fault. While we've done everything that we can, there is still something holding us back. So the answer lies with this mysterious something and not with us. Not only are they letting us off the hook, but they're about to confirm our suspicion that there is answer to our dilemma. And in the next section, they introduce us to it. What is it? For years, people just like you have asked the same question. Fortunately for some, they were able to get the answer to this and many other questions by purchasing a course back in the 1920s. If you were to flip through some of the magazines and newspapers back then, you would have seen some of the world's first direct response ads. What were the ads for? Pelmanism. And there it is. Confirmation that an answer to our problems exists. It's called Pelmanism. In just a few short paragraphs, they have managed to address three of the five insights we have been discussing. And from this point on, their readers are hooked. To see for yourself, read the full letter at www.pelmanismonline.com. It is well worth studying. Just how successful has this site been? In Joe's own words, they sold hundreds of copies and saw about $9,000 appear almost instantly. Not bad for a site they spent little time creating. Again, when our needs are being addressed, we don't care if the copy is slick, if the graphics look great, or even if the site is easy to navigate. We look past the superficial and listen deeply to those who speak to us. Example 2: depression, weight loss, and landscaping. One of the most common of our five insights is justifying the failure of others. In my Forbidden Keys to Persuasion material, I refer to this as scapegoating. While the terminology is different, the underlying principle is the same. Here's an excerpt from my Forbidden Keys material that illustrates the power of this insight. A couple of television commercials that are currently airing in the United States brilliantly and ethically employ the concept of scapegoating, and they do so at the very beginning of their scripts. The first commercial for an antidepressant medication starts out with something like, "Feeling depressed lately? It may be the result of a chemical imbalance in your brain." The second commercial, one for a weight loss product, starts out like this: "If you've tried to lose that extra weight and have failed, it may not be your fault. It may be your metabolism." Can you see their use of the scapegoat principle? If you're depressed, it may not be your fault. It might simply be a biological factor beyond your control. And if you're overweight and have failed to slim down, it might not be your fault, but simply a problem with your metabolism. What makes the use of scapegoating in these situations ethical is that they are absolutely true statements. Depression can be caused by a chemical imbalance in the brain, and obesity can be caused by metabolism. What makes the use of scapegoating brilliant in these cases is that it is used immediately in their pitches and instantly offers the viewer something of value, a scapegoat for their problems. From here, the viewer is much more often open to the rest of their message. A friend of mine who is a landscaper once told me that when he first meets potential clients, they are often embarrassed by the condition of their property. When he senses this, he immediately points out how many of the problems with their property are due to such things as drought conditions, bad soil conditions, and the like. In other words, the condition of their property doesn't say anything negative about the potential client. It isn't their fault. How important is this subtle change in strategy? He told me that the number of people he secured as clients increased significantly once he realized that people often not only want their property to look nicer, but don't want to accept responsibility for it looking poor in the first place. Sample 3. This special report. If I have held your attention thus far, there's a good reason for it. I have used the one sentence strategy in writing this very report. If you'll go back and reread it, you will find places I've used our five insights sprinkled throughout. However, the best example is the second half of the opening section itself, titled One Sentence Persuasion. I closed that section using each of our five insights to not only demonstrate the effectiveness of these ideas, but also to give you a sense of how powerful and transparent they can be. Let's look at some of that section and see how I worked each of these insights into it without raising an eyebrow. The first paragraph reads, given the pace of today's world, it has never been easier to be powerfully persuasive. Never. It doesn't require good looks, a silver tongue, or infallible logic. It doesn't require confidence, charisma, or a magnetic personality. It is a simple matter when one cuts through all the smoke. Cutting through the smoke is the hard part. Here, I am encouraging the reader's dreams of becoming more persuasive. And for those who have doubts about their potential, such as not enough confidence, charisma, etc., I take extra steps to assure them they can do it as well. The next paragraph reads, in fact, if you have yet to develop your persuasive powers to the level you want, it likely has nothing to do with you. Given the shell game of strategies and misinformation available, it is a wonder we're still able to understand each other, much less persuade each other. In this paragraph, I address two of our insights. First, I justify the failure of readers for not already being persuasive enough. Second, I confirm their suspicions that much of the available material is too complex and confusing for anyone to understand. And the final paragraph reads, if this barrage of techno jargon has left you more confused than empowered, take a deep breath and relax. We're about to take aim at this confusion, blow away the smoke, and make things as simple as possible. In fact, we'll nail it down to a single sentence, just 27 words. And with these words, we can work miracles. But first, we must clear away some smoke. Here, I complete the task by allaying their fears, such as take a deep breath and relax, and helping them throw rocks at their enemies. We're about to take aim. And notice my use of the term we. I said, we're about to take aim, not I'm about to take aim. I then said, we must clear away some smoke, not I must clear away some smoke. This helps assure readers that I'm on their side. There are two important lessons to take away from this example. First, as I said before, these insights were seamlessly integrated into this report. They do not stand out as being too obvious or simple because they aren't. In fact, since they do not stand out, they are all the more powerful. And second, my use of these instincts is authentic. Sorry. And second, my use of these insights is authentic. I didn't have to fabricate these statements to make them fit this strategy. Yes, I phrased them as I did with our insights in mind, but they remain grounded in truth, an essential factor if we are to avoid getting our way but hating ourselves in the morning. These three examples illustrate how widespread and applicable these insights really are. While most people like to think they are too wise to fall for such tactics, this very thinking makes them just that much more susceptible. One need only consider how successful these types of approaches are to confirm this. Now what? Nietzsche reportedly said that the message of most books could be reduced to a single paragraph without losing anything of value. In this report, I have attempted to go one better. I have tried to create an entire persuasion course in a single sentence. I will be the, I will be the first to admit that by doing this, I have, in fact, left out many things that could be of value to the would-be persuader. But as I said at the outset, if there is one thing I know to be true, it is that the most magical things in life, on and off the stage, are often the result of the correct application of the most basic principles imaginable. And I have found few principles that are more basic and more powerful than those offered in this one sentence. People will do anything for those who encourage their dreams, justify their failures, allay their fears, confirm their suspicions, and help them throw rocks at their enemies. So, my goal in this report wasn't to give you a comprehensive plan to follow. It was to simplify a process that is often needlessly complex. It was to clear away cumbersome techniques and strategies that often serve to separate more than persuade. And ultimately, it was to provide a core concept you can use to build relationships that are not only powerful, but profitable. Whether you find this notion distasteful or not, there is one thing you can count on: your family, friends, customers, clients, and even everyone you have yet to meet will have these needs met by someone. The only question is, will it be by you? This is the One Sentence Persuasion course by Blair Warren. You can visit his website at www.blairwarren.com. Again, this is Carlo Matig-a. Thank you for listening. And if you like this content, if you like personal development, you can also check the links below for your own personal development journey. Thank you.